studio, and today, you guys, we are doing the Summer Cupcake Kit. Now, if the sticker on your box right here does not say Summer Cupcake Kit, you're probably looking for another video, so go ahead and stop this one and go back to our YouTube channel and find the video that's titled the same as the sticker right here on your box. If it does say Summer Cupcake Kit, welcome. It's going to be a fun time, but there are a couple things we need to go over before we actually start decorating. So the first thing is you need your cupcakes baked. So you've got cake mix in your box right here, and there are directions on the back of the cake mix box on how to make them. But if you have any questions or any trouble with that, we also have a live chat if you need to reach out there. But otherwise, the directions are on your box, and you need to bake them. Now, if you have a cupcake pan, feel free to use it. However, if you don't have one, I got you. Inside your box are cupcake liners, which is so cool. And then this cupcake pan. Like, what? That's so awesome. So, with this cupcake pan, you will more than likely need to fill it up, bake those cupcakes, then remove them, and then bake the rest of your batter. But you have a pan to use in case you don't have one. I know when I first started decorating, I didn't have any of the tools, so I think this is just so cool, in my opinion. And then aside from that, the last thing with your cupcakes is you want them at least room temperature or chilled. Cupcakes are easier to decorate the colder they are, and if you try to decorate fresh cupcakes out of the oven and put icing on them, it turns into a hot soupy goopy mess, and we don't want a hot soupy goopy mess today. We want some beautifully themed summer cupcakes. So make sure that they are room temperature or chilled, and then other than that, I recommend a pair of handy dandy scissors. This is just mainly for cutting candy bags and stuff open, just to make our lives a little easier. And then some kind of towel. It can be a paper towel, it can be a hand towel, it can be a kitchen towel, just some kind of towel that we can put our open icings on. We can also use it to wipe our fingers as we go. And then the very, very last thing is go ahead and wash your hands super duper good and all that jazz. And once you've done that, we're good to take everything out of the box and get started. So I'm gonna go ahead and take everything out and we'll get to the decorating part. All right, so a couple things with this kit. Number one is I'm only going to be doing each design one time to show you how to do it. However, you have enough stuff to make 2 of each cupcake. So if you would like, you can decorate along with me and do 2 cupcakes at a time, or you can do 6 cupcakes with me, and then with your other 6, you can go back and repeat it when the video is done, or you can get creative with it. Totally up to you. But there is enough stuff to make 2 of each, so if you want to do 2 at a time with me, you can, but I will just be doing 1 because I'm just showing you how to do it. And also, I make a lot of cupcakes, and my friends and family are like, they're amazing, but please stop giving me cupcakes. So I'm going to do 1 today, and we are going to start with part of summer, which is the sunshine. So we're gonna make a sun cupcake. So go ahead and pick out whichever 1 or 2 cupcakes feel like suns to you, and we'll get started. I think this one. So the first part of this, because I want my sun to look like a yellow sun, is I'm gonna use yellow icing. However, maybe your sun is on Mars and you wanna use a different color. You can totally do that instead if you want. Just keep in mind you might have to substitute some other colors for other things later on. But I'm gonna grab this. It's so cool. What is this? It's this. And I'm gonna take off this. Now don't throw this lid away because it's actually not just a lid. It's actually the coupler ring that we're gonna use to attach the tips to our icing tubes, which I just think is so awesome. Like, I can't believe it comes with this. It's so neat. But I'm gonna take it off, and we are gonna be using this in this cupcake. So I'm gonna go ahead, and there's this little piece. I'm just gonna pop it out, and now I have a coupler ring. So I'm going to set that aside, and then I'm going to remove this little seal. And then on your cupcake, you can either do zigzags, polka dots, swirlies, just any way to get icing on here. I'm just going to do a big swoopy doop. So bloop. And I have no tip on there, I just made a and then inside your kit box, if you don't have a cake spatula, no worries, because it came with a spatula, and I'm so excited. I got green again. We've got a bunch of different colors floating out there, but I'm always very happy to get the green one because I love green. But I've got my cupcake, and now I'm going to talk to you about how to smooth this out. So we'll go over a couple different ways. So if you don't want to smooth it out yet and see what those ways are, you can go ahead and just listen for now. But when I smooth things out, what's easiest for my brain to do is to go side to side, but instead of it being like a windshield wiper blade, it's more like the beginning of a pirate ship ride at a carnival. So I actually rock a little bit up, and rock a little bit this way, rock a little bit this way, and back and forth. It's like the beginning of the ride before it gets crazy, where you're like, okay, it's just a swing. It's just a big swing. So I set this part of my spatula in the center, and I do my rocky motion, back and forth, until I've reached the edge. Then I have some right here, so I can just scrape that on my cupcake. If you need to go the other direction, there's nothing wrong with that. This also does not have to be the smoothest, most pristine, beautiful cupcake in the world, because we're going to be adding other pieces to this. Like we're going to add a face to our sun and some, some sun rays coming off of our sun. So don't feel like it has to be super duper perfect. And then if that didn't feel good to you, another way you can do it, which for me, this way does not feel good to me, but it is a way you can do it. All of us have different brains and we all work differently. So what might work for me might not work for you. As you can tell, even talking sometimes in words are hard. But you can do the twirling method, where you put your spatula here and you twirl your cupcake around it to help smooth it out. And if that doesn't feel good, treat your cupcake like it's a nervous cat. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm hoping it'll make sense here in a little bit. So pretend it's a very nervous cat whose attention you've been trying to get all day, and it's finally jumped in your lap. You gotta pet it. You gotta pet that cat, but you don't want to freak it out. So with that amount of pressure that you would use to do that, lightly pet your icing in the direction you want it to go until you can cover the whole top of your cupcake. So whichever way works for you, go ahead and smooth out your cupcake. And then I've got some dangly bits on my edge, so I'm just going to take the side of my spatula and scrape them off. Whoop! And then if you're doing 2 cupcakes at a time, you can go ahead and scrape this onto your next cupcake or your other sun cupcake. So you've already got some yellow icing on there, and that way you're using as much icing as possible. But I'm happy with this. Since I'm only doing 1 at a time, I'm actually going to go ahead and wipe my spatula off so it's ready to go for my next cupcake. And then we're going to talk about sun rays. So for the sun ray parts of this cupcake, we're going to go to what I usually call the little bag of fun, but today I would say this is a big bag of fun. So inside it are these. There's a little baggie of these weird plastic things. These are our icing tips for today. And if you'd like to know what they're called and just kind of like a reference for what they do, there's a little booklet inside your box too that also says what they do and explains which one is. But I'm going to show them to you. So I'm going to cut this open. And then I'm going to leave everything else in this bag just so I know where it is. But if you want to dump it out on your workspace, that's totally fine. But I'm going to leave it in here and take out my tips. So the one I like to use for sun rays is the one that is a circle with a bunch of spikes. It is the one that's called an open star. You could use the leaf tip if you wanted. That's a variation for your sun. We also have variation videos on our YouTube channel if you want to check those out. But today, I'm going to be using this one. So circle, spiky bits. Circle, spiky, circle, spiky. And then to attach it to my yellow, I'm going to set it on top. And then I'm going to take that little ring and push down just a little bit and twist it. And it should go in just like this. Now, sometimes the icing tips are like, haha, no, you can't catch me. No, no. And they like to move around a little bit when you go to put the ring on. If that's happening to you, nothing's wrong with it. Just sometimes they kind of like to move. So you just need to like maneuver it a bit and apply a little bit more pressure as you put it on there. And then you should be all good. But it doesn't need to be on there so tight you can't take it off. It just needs to be on tight enough that you do this. It doesn't go flying across the room. So if you did that and it didn't go flying across the room, high five. If you did that and it went flying across the room, high five. I appreciate you testing it. Go ahead and rinse your tip off and put it back on your bag. Alrighty. So for me, for the sun cupcake, I like cartoony things. So I like it to look like the sun rays are coming off the side of the sun. I wish I had like a massive sun headband to show you, but like versus sticking like this. So instead of going straight up and down on my cupcake, because I want that effect to where it's coming out the side, I'm going to turn my bag sideways and pipe like this. So I'm almost touching my cupcake, but not quite. It's like I'm really trying to irritate it, like, I'm not touching you, but I'm like really close to it. And then I'm going to squeeze in the same spot. 1, 2, stop and pull back. So again, almost touching the cupcake, but not quite. 1, 2, stop and pull back. You also don't have to hold your cupcakes in your hand like I'm doing right now. I just think it makes it easier for me to explain what's going on, and you can see it a little bit better than if I'm down here doing it. But if you need to leave your cupcake on the table and do the 1, 2, stop and pull, that's also totally fine. So I've got some little rays right now, and I'm just going to continue doing that all the way around my cupcake. Sunshine! Yes! All right, so now I want to add a face to my son. So what I personally am going to do is I'm going to make a pair of sunglasses and have my son being like, sup, I know I'm cool. But you can make whatever face you want. If you would rather do eyeballs or have your son like, or hi, sunshine, totally up to you. They are your cupcakes. You're the one who's going to be eating them, so feel free to put your own spins on it. If that feels more you than a pair of sunglasses, go for it. But I'm going to do a pair of sunglasses. So I'm going to take my black icing, and I'm going to move this because I could already see my elbow about to go in that. And take the top off, push this little piece out, remove the seal, and then I'm going to put the tip that is just a circle on it. It's just a very small circle. It is the round tip. Oh my goodness, I can't get this off. So I'm going to put the one that's just a circle on there. It's just this one. It's a little tiny circle. It's good for writing, drawing, or making polka dots. We are going to be using it for drawing and polka dots today. But I'm going to put it on here. I'm going to take my ring, secure it. Sweet. And then I'm going to draw the sunglasses. So for this one, I do need to have it down here for both hands. But to make a pair of sunglasses, what I like to do is make 2 lines. So I'll go through step by step. And it's up to you how big you want them to be too. I want mine kind of big today. So I make 2 lines, which if you wanted, those could be eyebrows and then have eyes. But for the sunglasses, I just draw a little smiley face underneath that and connect it to the line. Then I put a line in the center. And then you can leave it like that, or you can draw a line to the edge of your sunbeams. I'm gonna go ahead and make my smirk. Yes. And then I'm gonna fill in these with black icing. Yes. And there we go, you guys. It's our first cupcake design. High five. So, if you're doing 2 at a time, go ahead and finish your second one. If not, we're going to go ahead and move on to our second design, which I think since we already have yellow open, let's just stick with it. So we're going to make a sunflower that is going to be super excited to see our sun. So I'm going to set them down. This one feels like a sunflower to me. And then in the center of my cupcake, I'm going to take my black icing. And I personally take this tip off. You can leave it on. It'll just take a little bit longer to squeeze out the general shape we're going for. But I'm going to take it off and put that on my towel. And then right in the center of my cupcake, I'm going to make a little Hershey Kiss size blob. Alrighty, then it's time to go back to the bag of fun and remove the chocolate sprinkles. So if you would like, you can put these in a little bowl or on a plate. I personally just put some in my hand, but it's up to you. So I'm going to cut it open, and then I'm going to pour some in my hand. I'm going to set these down over here, keeping the bag up so it doesn't spill everywhere. And I'm going to take my cupcake, and I'm going to dunk it face first into the sprinkles. And I'm not pressing as hard as I can, but I am applying a little bit of pressure. So I think this is a little too wide. So the upside is now the sprinkles are on there. I can actually move this around and help shape it into the shape that I want. I just want it a little less, I want to push it back a little bit more. Actually really like that. And then I don't need these, so they can go back in my bag. Sweet. So these are going to be the seed parts of our sunflower. And now it's time to make the petals. So back to where our icing tips are, we are going to take out the leaf tip, which is the one that looks like a V or an alligator mouth, depending on your perspective. I've also heard fish mouth before too, so. There, that way you can see. And then I'm going to put it on my yellow. So I want a yellow sunflower. But again, if you want to change the color, you totally can. Just keep in mind you might have to substitute some other colors later. But it also looks pretty on any of the icings, I think. Okay, so I'm going to get up close to you. So with this tip, we want to hold it like it is an alligator mouth. Like it is going to throw up icing all over our cupcake. I'm going to squeeze in the same spot for either 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3. Stop squeezing and then pull back. If you pull back while you're still squeezing, it's going to make your petals really hangy and look more like a potted plant leaf type vibe. And they'll just be kind of floppy instead of like nice pretty points sticking out. I'll show you what one looks like, but I think for a sunflower, for me, I like how it looks if you start on the edge and work your way in. However, that's what I like. If you would rather start in the middle and work your way out, you can do that too. But I'm going to hold it pretty level. And then the bottom of my tip is actually touching the cupcake, but not the top one. But you can come a little back too if you want. Then squeeze, 1, 2, stop, and pull. So if you don't stop when you pull, it does this, which is cute. Just gives it more of like a hangy potted plant vibe is all I can think of for it. So I'm going to go in a circle with the 1, 2, all the way around, and then I'll show you the next part if you're starting from the outside edge. All right, so I have my first row. So if you're starting from the outside in, you're gonna need to change your angle as you go. So instead of this way, I'm gonna tilt a little bit this way and do the same thing. The reason I tilt it a little is if I keep it at the same level when I do the pullback, it's gonna take those leaves off. So I went from this to this, and then I'm just gonna repeat that process until I reach my sprinkles. So I'll need to change my angle from this to this for my next row. So I'm going to fill in all my flower petals and then show you when it's done. Ta-da! Isn't it so pretty? So there we go, you guys. That is our second cupcake. We've done a sun and a sunflower. And you know what? Our next summer cupcake is going to be where I want to be right now. We're going to make a beach cupcake. So I'm going to set this one down. I'm going to pick out my cupcake that feels like a beach to me. I think this one feels the most beach. And then I'm going to take my white icing. So for our beach cupcake, we don't need a tip to start, but we are going to use this piece in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the ring out, or pop the circle out, and set the ring down. Remove my seal. And then on my cupcake, halfway, I'm going to make a line like this. And I had no tip on there. So I'm going to set my icing down and make sure my spatula is clean. Although if you do have some yellow on it still, we're not going to see this part at all, so it won't hurt it if you get a little bit of yellow icing in it. And instead of smoothing it out like that, I'm actually going to do that nervous cat method, and I'm going to pet it. Because we don't need a ton of icing here. This is just glue for what's going to be our sand. It's not real sand, by the way. It's graham cracker crumbles. And also I love how graham cracker crumbles taste with icing. If you hadn't had it before, like, highly recommend. It's one of my favorite combinations. And then I just want a little bit of icing here, and then I can spread this a little bit more. Yes. And it doesn't have to be smooth. It can be like that. And if you have a little bit of cupcake shining through, it's also okay. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this off. And then I'm gonna get my sand. So kind of like with the chocolate sprinkles. So you can either put this in a bowl or your hands, or you can just cut the tip of this off. So I'm gonna cut the very corner. Yes. It's where there's a little tiny hole, and I'm gonna sprinkle it on. Recommend setting your cupcake down. And then as I'm sprinkling it on, I'm also gonna take my finger and I'm gonna kind of, not really push it, but I'm moving it around a little bit with that light amount of pressure, and I'm also tapping it to help it stick into this white icing. And the reason we don't do our whole cupcake with a sand base is because icing does not like to stick to sprinkles or graham cracker crumbles. So our icing for our water will just be lifting up and not sticking to the cupcake. That's why we only do it to half of it. So it looks like this. And then if you want it to look like your sand is a bit more traveled, you can apply more pressure to mush it down to where you can see more of the icing shining through if you want that look. But I'm happy with this. So I'm gonna set it down, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do my water first. It also comes back down to, we're going to do some crashing wave effects going on this line. And if we have blue icing there that I can halfway stick to, it's not gonna rip up. So we're gonna start with our waves. So I'm gonna take the blue, and then we're going to use that open spiky tip again. So you can either go rinse it out in the sink, or if you would like, you can just put it on this blue and squeeze for about 5 seconds and it will push it all out. But if you wanna be able to use as much icing as possible for your cupcakes, I recommend rinsing it out. So I'm just gonna put mine on because I'm only doing one. But I'm going to put it on here, give it a twist, and then I'm just gonna come to my towel, squeeze it out. Perfect, I can't see any more yellow, plus I love this tie-dye effect you get for a bit. And then I'm gonna put some water on the side of here. So you can either hold it up and down and go 1, 2, 3, and lift up like we did with our sun spikes, just instead of sideways, you're up and down. Or you can hold this sideways and make some lines. I like to kind of give it a little bit of a ziggy-zaggy. Just a little while I go. And I'm just gonna fill it in. It's so cute already. So I'm gonna set this aside. And then we're gonna use the tip we haven't used yet, which is personally my all-time favorite tip. It's the grass tip. It's the one that looks like a thimble, but we're gonna use it for crashing foamy waves today. So I'm gonna get my white, put it on, and then I'm gonna go ahead and say, with this one in particular, people have the tendency to make their shape, and before they lift up, to push their tip back down and then come up. But when you do that, nothing happens. You just get a weird blob. So it is very important to stop and lift straight up. Try not to dip back down. So then, along my blue line, my top blue line, and I'm not going over the whole thing, but I'm coming to the edge of it. I'm gonna go 1, 2, stop, and lift. See how that one's got a shape? And I'm just going to follow this line like the waves are hitting the sand. Yes! And then I'm happy with just one line, but if you want it to be a bit more dramatic, you can add another line over the top of that of the same shape, and it'll make it look more foamy and poofy if you want a little bit more drama to your cupcake, but I like this. I like it. And then for the final part, umbrellas, duh. These are so cool. My grandma used to keep a giant bag of these, and I would take them to school and like give them to kids to put in their chocolate milks or like behind their ear in their hair. I love these things. I also recommend don't scratch your head with your umbrella and stick it in there. So I'm gonna grab my other umbrella. Oh yes, blue. And then I'm gonna take this little piece off. And before I shove my fingers up, I think it's easier if you very lightly pull your umbrella out. So it's a little easier to get your fingers under there. And then slide that pink ring up and push it. Ta-da! And then it's up to you how you want this to go. You can have it like this. You can have it like this. You could have your umbrella like this, like it's a very windy day. Totally up to you. I like to go in an angle like this. It's what I think looks cute. But there's no wrong way to put your umbrella in. And then I like it to the corner. I don't know why, but that's what I like. And there we go, you guys. Beach cupcake. Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next cupcake, which is like a Frappuccino, basically, which is also just, oh, good summer drink, in my opinion. So, pick out whatever cupcake feels the most like a Frappuccino to you. So, for your Frappuccino cupcake, you can take your white icing and just do a swirl with no tip. However, if you want it to look more whipped creamy, I recommend rinsing out the star tip, the one we just used for our water, and putting it on your white, which is actually what I'm going to do today. So I'm going to go rinse out my tip, and then I'll be right back. Alrighty. So to do this one, I'm going to create a series of rings with a little bit of height. So I like to start on the outside, and I'm just going to make a circle. That's all right. So good. And then I'm going to fill in my circle. Sure, if you taste test your icing and you're sharing your cupcakes, be sure to wash your hands. I just feel like I gotta say that. And I'm going to fill in another circle. And then one more. So then, starting with my second or third circle, which if you did the circles, you should be able to see your lines, I'm going to put another one. And then I'm going to fill it in. And then I'm going to keep squeezing and make a little swirly on top. Just like some whipped creamy vibes. So this next part is where a bowl would come in handy, because you have these melting chocolate wafers. So we're actually going to melt these and drizzle them on the cupcake, which I think is super cool. So I'm gonna go heat these up in the microwave. I would start with 5 seconds just because everybody's microwaves, kind of like everybody's ovens, they all run differently. So start with 5 seconds. If it looks melty, you're good to go. If not, just maybe add another 5, but we don't want to put them in there too long because we don't want to burn our chocolate. So I'm gonna microwave these. I had an extra cupcake liner, so melty chocolate. And then I'm going to just come to the edge and just scoop some on there. If you have a spoon and would rather use that, you totally can. And then I would definitely, if you're planning on 2 Frappuccino cupcakes, I would do this part at the same time. If you don't, it's okay. You can remelt your chocolate, but that way you don't have to do it again. Yes, give me that chocolate drizzle. Yes, I'm happy with that. Okay. Set this aside. Yes. And then if you want a little extra flair, which I do today, I'm going to take some chocolate sprinkles. Yes. And then the last part of this cupcake is you have a giant boba straw. So it looks kind of silly if you use the whole straw. I either cut them in half or not quite in half. I think about right here is good. Oops. So I just cut about this much off. And then I stick it into the side of my cupcake and I actually press it a little bit into my cupcake. I don't go all the way down, but enough to where it's like sticking in there. It's not going anywhere. And you have a Frappuccino cupcake. I think it's cool. It's fun, simple, cute, and I like it. I like it. I hope you like it. Oh man, we are flying through this. All right. Well, you know what? I think the next cupcake we're going to do is going to be our ladybugs. So pick out your ladybug cupcake. And for my ladybug cupcake, you can just put ladybugs on here if you want. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to. But I like to put leaves. So I'm going to take my green, and I'm going to put that tip we used for our flower petals, because it's technically a leaf tip, on here. And how you put your leaves on is the same way we did the flower petals. It's just 1, 2, and pull back. We'll go over it again. So you can either rinse out your tip, or you can put it on and squeeze. I'm going to rinse it out, so I'll be back in just a second. Yes! Okay. So again, I like to start on the outside edge. That's just what my brain likes. But you can start anywhere on this cupcake. But I'm going to go 1, 2, stop, and pull. And I'm just going to cover this in different leaves. Now, if you want your leaves to look a bit more wild and chaotic, you can have them standing straight up. It's the exact same motion, just different angle. So I'm going to go straight up and down. And I'm going to go in the same spot. 1, 2, stop, and lift up. If you want your leaves going all over the place, usually I'm a fan of the chaotic leaves. I don't know why. I like it. But I'm going to cover the whole top of this cupcake in some leaves. Leaves! Look how pretty they are. Okay, so now it is time to make our ladybugs. So, the last thing inside our bag of fun is red fondant. So if you've never played with fondant before, it's basically like Play-Doh you can eat, and it tastes better than Play-Doh. So when I use fondant, I like to cut the top off and then take my scissors and cut down this way. She says that she doesn't do it. There we go. That way I can just unwrap it, kind of like a chocolate bar. It just helps me remember how much I need and what to portion. However, if you don't open it that way and you just rip it out in chunks, it's totally fine. It's not going to hurt it. I'm going to show you about how much fondant we want for each cupcake anyway. So for our ladybugs, we're just going to use 1/4 of it. And now this part is up to you. I like to make 2 ladybugs. If you want to make just 1 big ladybug, you can do that. It's super cute either way. I'm going to make 2, but know that you can make 1 big one instead if you want. But I'm going to rip this in half, set one down, and then I'm going to mush this because I like how it feels and it just makes it easier to work with. And then roll it into a ball. Now I don't want my ladybugs to be so rounded, so I'm not going to mosquito squash it, but I am going to give them a boop. So boop, just not as round. And then I'm going to set that down, and I'm going to do the same thing to this one. Ladybugs. And then it's up to you how you want to put them on the cupcake. I'm going to put them a little off-center, but 1 on each side. Oh, they're already cute. Okay, so for the ladybugs, next is our black icing. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put this round tip that already has the black on it back on my black icing. And then again, I like the cartoony look to things. So for ladybugs, pick where you want to be the front of your cupcake or where you want your ladybug's face to be. So I want them looking at each other today. So I'm going to just make a blob right there. And make another blob, kind of like an oval, right there. Then I'm going to draw a line down the center of them. And then I'm going to add polka dots on each side of those lines. Now, if you want, you could make little tiny hearts instead, or you could make a couple big circles instead of tiny polka dots. There's lots of ways to customize your ladybugs. But I'm going to go with little tiny polka dots, so I'm just going to go like 1, stop and lift. And if you look, you see how it's pointing up? The round tip is notorious for causing these little points, and for me personally, the little points sometimes drive me crazy. Sometimes I like it, I think it works with the design, and other times I'm like, why? So if those little points are bugging you, don't worry, in about 2 minutes, your icing will have stiffened up enough from being in the air that you can take your finger and lightly tap them and they'll go away. If you try to do that right now, your icing is still too fresh and too wet. It's just gonna keep sticking to your finger and causing new points. So put all your little polka dots on, let it sit for 2 minutes, and then if you don't like those little points, you can lightly tap them down. Alrighty, so next, we're gonna need this round tip on the white icing. And we're also gonna need it on the white icing for our next cupcake. So since this one is such a smaller hole, I definitely recommend that you rinse this out. And because black is such an overpowering color for our icings, it takes a lot longer to push all of this color out and a lot more icing. So I'm going to rinse this one out, and I highly recommend you do the same thing. And then we're gonna come back and finish up our ladybugs. So all we're gonna do with this one, and if you don't wanna do this part, again, you don't have to, they're your cupcakes. I want you to be happy with them. But I'm going to add 2 little dots to be my eyeballs onto the black blobs that I made. They're so cute. And you can leave them like this, or you can add a little smiley face. And then if you still want like a pupil for them, honestly, something you can do is you can take a sprinkle, single chocolate sprinkle, break it in half, and stick it into those little poofs. That way we don't have to dirty up our tip again, and we use more sprinkles to give them little eyes. Like, it's like, hey. Oh, it's so cute. And then I think it's been long enough. Let's find out. Yep. Aha. I can tap those points down. So it's very light. Do, do, do. Ta-da! And that's it, you guys. It's a ladybug cupcake. I love it. Oh man, it's time for our last one, which is something that I really enjoy on a hot summer day, which is a piece of watermelon. So I'm gonna grab my cupcake. And then for me, I put a white background, but you can put whatever background color you want. And then I don't want a tip, and I also don't fill up my whole cupcake. I'm just gonna do a cute little swirl. And then we will need like that much icing for a line on our watermelon. Go just a little bit more. But again, any of the background colors look really cute for this one. And if you would rather smooth your cupcake out like we did with the sun, you can totally do that too. I am just gonna do this cute little swirl, and then I'm gonna go back to my red fondant, and I'm gonna cut another 1/4 of it off. So then, if you're doing one at a time, if you cut this in half, you have one for ladybugs and one for your other piece of watermelon. And then when fondant has been opened and it's in the air, it starts to stiffen up. So you definitely want to mush it with your hands and work with it a little bit to make it nice and soft again. Play with it with your hands. All right. And then we're going to make a triangle shape. So whenever we're shaping anything, I think it is easiest to start from a ball. And then I'm going to boop it just a little bit like we did with our ladybugs. Boop. And then I'm just going to pinch one end of it. Now, something I want to say before we continue on. If you're like, I hate watermelon, ew. You can make these strawberries instead. So if you're making strawberries, do that part and stop. And then instead of doing the grind part of the watermelon, you can take your leaf tip and make 2 little leaves on there for a strawberry instead. But if you're making a watermelon, we've got to this part, and then I don't want this as rounded, so I'm going to press it on my table. And then I'm also going to, I'm just making it a little wider. Yes! Yes! And then I'm going to set it on top of my swirl. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. And if you're doing the strawberry, just saying, you have some leftover chocolate, you could drizzle it on there too, or dunk it in there for a chocolate strawberry cupcake. We have a variation video, so feel free to check that out. Kind of went on a strawberry kick, but watermelon. Watermelon. So now I am going to take that round tip that should still have white icing in it, and all I'm going to do is pipe a single white line right here. So I am on top of my fondant, and then I will go ahead and bring this to the side. That's just how I feel. And then it's up to you what tip you want to use for the green. I personally am just going to use my leaf tip, and I'm going to cover this whole part in green. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit out because it's been sitting for a bit. There we go. And this time I'm going to squeeze while I draw. I'm not trying to make a leaf shape. I'm just making a line with this tip and filling in all the way to the white part of the cupcake. And then the last part is our seeds. So you have options, because you guys, I like options. So one is you can take one single tiny sprinkle at a time and stick it right into your fondant and fill it in with seeds that way, doing one sprinkle at a time. I am aware that not everybody is about the single sprinkle lifestyle, and that is okay. If you were like, no, I'm not doing that, you can put the round tip back on your black icing. So go ahead and put it on there, squeeze out the white. It won't take very long because black color is so overpowering. So do that. And then just pipe like we did with our ladybugs. Some little tiny circles. You could also make them more teardrop shaped if you'd like, kind of like the watermelon seeds. Totally your call how intricate and detail oriented you want to be with this one. But since I've already started this, I'm going to go ahead and fill it in with some little black dots. And I will remove my single sprinkle and just taste test it to make sure my sprinkles are good. And there we go, you guys! We did it! High five, summer cupcakes complete! Yes! And that's it, you guys. That is the summer cupcake kit. Thank you so much for coming today. I hope you had fun. I know that I always have fun. And I hope you enjoy eating your beautiful creations, because that's like the next best part. But before you eat them, I just wanted to say, if you would like to send us your pictures, you can go to our website, which is mymakestudio.com, and click on the Chef Chayla tab, and there'll be an option for you to upload your photos there, and you'll also become part of our baking club and get a certificate from me. If you don't want to share your cupcakes and you're like, no, that's totally fine. You don't have to, but if you would like to share them, I love seeing what you guys do. Something I think is really cool about this is we're all like doing the same design, but you guys always find a way to put your own spin and personality into it. And I think that's so awesome, because in my world, cakes and cupcakes are just art that you can eat. And art is unique just like you are. So if you would like to share your beautiful creations with me, I would love to see them. Again, just go to our website, mymakestudio.com, click on the Chef Chayla tab, and there'll be an option there for you. And while you're there, if you want to see what other cupcake kits we have, we also do cake ones, round ones, and squares. You can check those out too if you need more decoration in your life. And then if you would like to follow any of our social media, if you did not know, we're Colorado-based. So our Instagram, which is @mymakestudio, and our Facebook, which is @mymakestudio. We put like deals and just kind of like what's going on in our lives or new and upcoming things on there. So those are good places to follow. And then we also have a TikTok, which is also @mymakestudio. And that one, if you just kind of want to see like, oh, hey, you want to see how I did this hair color? There's a video on that. You want to see my dog being silly or me making weird things at home? That's a good place to go to as well. But thank you again so much for coming. I really appreciate you being here, and I for real hope that you had a good time and that you enjoy eating these. And as always, everyone, stay creative.